from the Oklahoma Department of Wildlife Conservation, Outdoor Oklahoma.
Well, hello and welcome to Outdoor Oklahoma. I'm Todd Craighead. Now, if you're a hunter like me, think back to some of those first experiences you had of a hunt. The thrill of the chase, the excitement, the boost in self-esteem, and maybe the overwhelming challenge of it all. Do you still have those same feelings today? You know, as we grow older, we sometimes lose a bit of the allure that had such a tight grip on us in the beginnings. But it's important for us to remember that today's youngest generation must also experience all those same feelings in order for hunting to have become a passion for them and a way of life for them. Today we're going to introduce you to Carly Richmond and rediscover bow hunting through the eyes of a teenage girl.
I grew up in a family that likes to hunt. I have a brother and sister who both got started hunting before me, and I really wanted to go. So I finally talked my neighbor into taking me. I first only hunted with the rifle and muzzleloader, and eventually I got my brother to give me one of his bows to use for a year, and eventually got to get myself a new bow. I bought it with my own money, so it's special to me. Archery has more of a challenge than hunting with a gun because you have to work a lot harder, you have to be a lot closer. Archery takes more patience and skill, more time to work at it than using a gun. You get more excited, I think. It gives you more of an adrenaline rush than shooting a gun. With archery, you have more time to spend in the woods than during rifle season. Also with archery, you can pretty much practice whenever you want to. You can go out in your backyard, go over to a friend's house, or you don't have to be out on a range. You can pretty much practice wherever you need to.
We'll learn a little bit more about Carly's hunting influences in a little bit. But next, the Wildlife Department manages more than 60 public hunting areas across the state that total 1.2 million acres. Oklahomans have never had this much land for public hunting access in our state's history. In fact, we're going to travel to northwest Oklahoma right now and learn a little bit more about the expanding hunting opportunities at the Pack Saddle Wildlife Management Area.
Here at Pack Saddle WMA, we have recently added on a new addition. It's going to be termed the East Unit, lies primarily to the east and northeast of the existing Pack Saddle WMA. Historic practices have been pretty much producer-oriented, in other words, primarily grazing. It's native rangeland. There's not a lot of agriculture production, or hasn't been historically. So in that respect, it would be classified as native prairie or native rangeland. On the new area, the management plans as it stands right now will pretty much manage it similar to the existing Pack Saddle WMA with a little more upland focus. The way we were able to secure that property involved some funds that was geared more towards lesser prairie chickens, and so we will definitely try to create some lesser chicken habitat on there. Historically, there were lesser chickens in this area, and So we would like to create a habitat where they can return. They're fairly nearby, but not a lot of them on there right now. So our management goals will be to try to make the habitat more upland game friendly. There again with a lesser chicken focus. But that's not going to be drastically different than the original pack saddle WMA. We focus on upland game on a good portion of the WMA already. So we're not going to have a 180-degree different management plan, but we may focus a little more towards the upland area. Although adding the new acreage will increase some management time and efforts, it will be a nice addition to the existing WMA. It should help to disperse the hunters, increase access to upland game especially, and so by and large should be very beneficial to the sportsmen of Oklahoma and the Wildlife Department in general. We have pretty good numbers of northern bobwhites on pack saddle WMA comparative to the rest of the nation and also compared to the state of Oklahoma. We happen to exist in an area that still has a fairly good bobwhite habitat component, so we see pretty good numbers compared to the rest of the state. So the way we manage on pack saddle WMA, and the east unit will be included in this, is quail will be our main focus. If we can do something for turkeys that doesn't interfere with the quail habitat, or we'll upgrade quail habitat, we're all for it. The same with white-tailed deer, but we're not going to focus on managing something like white-tailed deer at the cost of quail habitat. So that will be our main focus. But there again, on the east unit, we will also even be more focused on upland game and thinking in terms of lesser prairie chickens and quail as opposed to white-tailed deer altogether. But there are pretty fair numbers of deer out here on pack saddle WMA. Our spotlight surveys are showing about a deer to roughly 15 to 20 acres. That's not a real high density compared to northeast Oklahoma, but for Ellis County and some of the surrounding counties out here, that's a pretty good number of deer. Our sportsmen come to pack saddle WMA primarily to hunt quail, turkeys, and deer. They do all three. We see quite a few on all, but quail and Rio Grande turkeys are definitely the big draw out here.
The wheels were set in motion several years ago to acquire properties like the east unit of pack saddle when the Wildlife Department created the first legacy permit. Now that permit is incorporated into the cost of a license, and hunters are now beginning to reap the benefits of their investment. When we come back, we'll visit 2 other new properties in northwest Oklahoma, but first, this week's Outdoor News Report. Just up the road from pack saddle are the Cimarron Hills and Cimarron Bluffs Wildlife Management Area. Though both areas are close to one another and similar in features, they each offer unique hunting and wildlife watching opportunities.
Here at Cimarron Hills Wildlife Management Area, we're on the east side of the Cimarron River, just a few short miles down the river and on the west side of the river in Harper County lies our other new wildlife management area, Cimarron Bluff. These two areas lie in a part of the state that has not been represented by public hunting or public lands for sportsmen and Oklahoma citizens to utilize. On Cimarron Hills, here, this topography and such is sand hills, river bottom, and in the northeast corner of the property, it's part of the Rolling Red Hills. When we go down the river to Cimarron Bluff, the topography, the geology is completely changed on the other side. It is shallow soils on top of gypsum, and on top of underneath the gypsum is a large salt dome. It has much more steep, broken topography. It's still excellent, pristine looking mixed grass prairie. It has prairie chickens that nest there. We have a lek there. And the property, Cimarron Bluff, will be managed primarily for the lesser prairie chicken. And then the other game species will be managed in a secondary capacity. Cimarron Hills has a number of different wildlife opportunities here. It looks like quail are going to be a very good prospect here. We have pheasant on the property, white-tailed deer in not large numbers, but very good quality. You're going to have to work at it to get to these because this is a walk-in only area. On Cimarron Bluff, the same species occur. We haven't seen any pheasant, but the quail hunting opportunities will be a lot less than probably you would expect in northwestern Oklahoma. It's just not the type of vegetation that supports quail. It supports prairie chickens, lesser prairie chickens. And both these properties, 3,770 acres for Cimarron Hills, 3,404 acres for Cimarron Bluff. That's 7,000 acres of opportunity for Oklahoma sportsmen that didn't exist in northwest Oklahoma.
Well, you remember Carly from earlier? We're now going to introduce you to her hunting mentor and neighbor, Roger Kildown. Roger is one of our fisheries technicians at the Wildlife Department, and whereas he might work with fish all day, he's a passionate bow hunter himself. And I think he's now discovered that showing someone else the ropes can be just as rewarding.
Since we're midday, Carly, we ought to just have a little contest here. Let's see who's the best.
Me.
You. Well, let's pick out something and we'll just practice a little bit. Aim at that cow pie right there, do a little practicing, and depending on how good you are, we might shoot for breakfast this morning. I didn't think we was going to shoot for breakfast. I didn't mean to say that.
That's just a warm-up. This is a real arrow.
There went my arrow. So, but I got the cow pie. So, that was a good shot. Are you going to hold out for a big deer, or are we just shooting does first thing that comes by this evening? Or what are you shooting?
Maybe hold off for a buck.
Okay, we can do that too. Season's early. Well, I got to find my arrow. So, I take it this year you told me earlier at the start of the season that you weren't even going to gun hunt this year. You were going to stick strictly with archery equipment. And I think that's pretty cool. So, not many young people. How long have you been hunting? How many years?
Since I was 9.
And you're
15.
15 now, so I know your family. I know they all hunt. You've got a dad, brother, twin brother, and a sister that all hunted. And then here you come. So how did you get started? Did you just, what was it about hunting that you wanted to get into it too?
My brother and sister always came home talking about their stories. and I've always wanted to go hunting, but never got the chance. So I asked you about taking me. You took me along.
But it seemed like your dad had taken you a time or two, and then when he talked to me, he says, she talks all the time in the stand. And then I think your brother ended up going with him one evening, and you just said, hey, can I go with you? And we've been together ever since. So what advice would you have for a young person that wanted to hunt or fish or get in the outdoors and just didn't know how to go about it?
They could ask their friends, neighbors. I asked my neighbor, you, and that's how I got started. They could check the internet. There's a lot of places they could just ask and get information about it. And
you know, you started with me hunting 5 years ago, and I've brought up 2 sons and grandsons coming up, one that does hunt with me. And when you started, I don't think you knew a coon track from a deer track. In just 5 years, you've come so far that, you know, you're in the woods. That's where you learn. And just like the other day, you shot that doe with your archery equipment. You tracked her, we found her, you gutted her, you drug her out, and you loaded her in the truck. And to me, that's just about as proud a moment as you can get. And I've done that with my sons and grandson. And now I've done it with you as my next door neighbor and good friend. And that makes somebody really proud of the person when they accomplish all that. You know, you've listened to me. What do you say we go eat breakfast and get in the tree early and
kill a deer.
kill a deer? And you're buying, right?
I won.
Oh, you won. I forgot.
Becoming someone's hunting mentor really isn't as hard as it may sound. Just the willingness to sacrifice a little of your time is really the first step. Then just open your eyes to those around you. I'm sure there's someone within your circle of influence that you could begin making a difference with. One of my first hunting mentors was a friend of my dad's, Dr. Bill Taggart in Stillwater. Dr. Taggart took me turkey hunting for the first time, and well, I've been hooked ever since. He's now in his 90s. And Dr. Taggart, if you're watching today, I can't thank you enough. Your investment in me helped to change my life. And I'd encourage you to make that same type of life-changing investment in someone else this hunting season. For all of us at your wildlife department, I'm Todd Craighead. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you somewhere new next time on Outdoor Oklahoma.